Hey guys, episode 20 or week 20, whichever you prefer. I got about 8 movies to review, some update and some other things and some questions. I just wanted to address a couple things here. Originally I always kind of reviewed more cult or horror movies, especially more horror movies. And lately I've been doing a lot more. And there's going to come a time when everybody's like, I can't believe you haven't seen that. Why are you reviewing that? And I basically kind of want to address this as I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately. And there's a podcast out there called Pure Cinema Podcast. Growing up, I loved all movies. I loved horror movies, probably a little bit more, but I loved westerns. I loved action movies. I loved, comedy and science fiction and fantasy. And when I started doing a lot of YouTube channels, the last 5 or 6 years, I've been reviewing mostly horror. And for a long time, I was getting a little burnt out. And listening to the Pure Cinema Podcast kind of rejuvenated a spark in me about cinema and film. I was getting burnt out on horror movies. Not that I don't love them, but mixing and switching in a lot of other films kind of rejuvenated me. And I'm kind of going back and watching a lot of movies I've always wanted to watch that I collected over the years. I just never had a chance to. So I guess it's kind of like you guys are going on a journey with me, filling in weak spots in my film knowledge and rediscovering movies I love and rediscovering new ones. Every once in a while there'll be something that's kind of obscure, but it's kind of cool. You guys are kind of going on this journey with me into discovering movies and rewatching gems and talking about them and digging deeper. I also wanted to address, I was thinking about, we have this old podcast feed, the Shut Up Brandon podcast, which I did with Dustin Mills and Brandon Salkill. They're still up. They'll probably be added to eventually, new ones and maybe some other stuff. But I was thinking about going back and making audio versions of these episodes if people be interested. I know that I like to listen to podcasts at work, so I could turn these into audio form, maybe episode 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4 together, 5 and 6, and then release them when they're new along with the video. If anybody's interested in some sort of audio version of these, I'll probably cut out the, maybe the update possibly, and the contest, of course, because it won't be worth a damn on the audio only. But maybe, let me know about that. And also, I kind of wanted to address, I had another thing I wanted to talk about, if I can remember it without forgetting it. Yeah, not coming to mind right now. Let me look. I had a couple notes here. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had, so I guess I'll hop right into the reviews. The first one I'll be reviewing is Lucio Fulci's Don't Torture a Duckling by Arrow Films. This is not the first time I had seen this one. And actually, to be honest, this is probably, I think, the most underrated Lucio Fulci movie. It was released on Anchor Bay DVD, and Blue Underground, I think, re-released it as well, but there has not been a United States Blu-ray until now. Of course, this is also released in the UK. There was a German, I believe, Blu-ray floating around, but yeah, Don't Torture a Duckling. This was, a lot of people don't know before, I guess probably almost anybody watching this knows, that before Fulci had his big supernatural horror film career with Zombie and New York Ripper, City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, those hits that he went on with, even The Black Cat, he made a bunch of different types of movies, westerns, comedies, and he made a few giallo as well, Lizard in the Woman's Skin and Don't Torture the Duckling probably being the most famous, but Perversion Story and Perversion Story and The Psychic, I believe, is the other one. But regardless, Don't Torture a Duckling is actually probably one of my all-time favorite Fulci movies. It has Mark Perel in it. Who else is in it? Oh, geez, the lady who plays Flava, the heretic, is in it. Her name is Florinda Balkan, I believe is how you say it, and Tomas Milan. He's a Cuban actor. He's in stuff like Oz and Compañeros and a bunch, Almost Human, a bunch of stuff. Really recognizable face. Don't Torture a Duckling follows the story of a child murderer in this small, superstitious, and very religious town. This reporter comes in, played by Tomas, and he tries to figure out what's going on. What's so cool about this movie is that Fulci has this, he gets his statements about religion and about superstition and, problematic Catholicism out in the film without completely demonizing it. Although there's a lot of horrible things that they do or horrible things that happen, it's coming from an insider who knows how these things kind of work. He feels like it's not completely outside of it and judging it from where he doesn't know what he's talking about. It feels like it's very personal to him, and it feels like he knows what he's talking about. He also seems to be an outsider, so when they point out at the outsiders, it feels genuine. The film as it get closer, you realize that these townspeople are pointing the finger at a lot of people, and there's one moment where somebody is sort of wrongfully accused, and it leads to probably one of the best scenes and one of the most tragic deaths in any film, period. It's one of those scenes that Quentin Tarantino drools over, most certainly. They use a lot of music to their advantage, and it's one of those deals where I don't know why, but Italian films, they had music made by the score, but then they also had songs made directly for the movie incorporating the score, or made by the score with the singer, and they tend to work the best in these movies. They use they use them so well. I think one of the Pistol for Ringo does it too, with a lot of, which was made for the movie. It just works perfectly, and it works extraordinarily well in here. The movie looks great. It's shot great. There's a lot of oneers, handheld shots and tracking shots. They lead into other things, and they always end on a note, like a poignant note, like, I see. They show you a lot without telling you it in this movie. There's a decent amount of nudity, and there's always a good amount of mystery in here. And the reason the killer is actually killing is more interesting than a lot of movies would do today. They would be like, it's just a sexual pervert out there. It's kind of a little deep, and it leads to one of the most ridiculous endings of all time. The score in here is actually done by Riz Ortolani, and it is probably one of his most popular scores, right next to Cannibal Holocaust. And he was the king at taking a beautiful music and putting it against something horrifically brutal. That's like you'll sucker me in. If you take something horrifically brutal in a movie and you put like this beautiful music in there, it immediately strikes like a deep emotional impact on me, and I start to get teary-eyed and whatnot. Cannibal Holocaust is really good at that, and Riz Ortolani does it well in that. Well, I don't want to say he didn't pick the times for the music, but maybe he did. I'm not sure, but he just works so well in that element. And Don't Torture a Duckling has one of those amazing scenes. And as far as people would say, Lucio Fulci versus Dario Argento. Dario Argento could never. I don't want to say this because I love Dario Argento, but he could never shoot a scene like that in Don't Torture a Duckling with Florinda in it. But well shot. Everything's great. The location's great. It's a rural giallo, which is cool. Usually they're in the city. They're high class. This time it's more working trash people. Not to be super negative or stick my nose up at that, but I'm a working class guy myself. But it's really cool it's not just high class society with this underlying sleaze in it. It's more of a rural working class family. It still has the sleaze in it, but I kind of enjoyed that. The features, actually, I remember there being quite a bit on here. There's a great commentary by Troy Horworth, I believe, or is it? Troy Horworth does a great job on here. There's interviews with the cinematographer and some other people. That's probably my favorite. The cinematographer let in on a lot of his tricks on how he lit and whatnot, the scenes, and there's other interviews as well. There's also a great feature on here about how this movie really Lucio Fulci really isn't this kind of misogynistic monster that a lot of people had painted him out to be. It's a great video essay, but regardless, it's probably one of my favorite releases of the year. There's a DVD and Blu-ray in here. It's one of my favorite giallo movies and one of my favorite Lucio Fulci movies. If you like this movie, or if you like giallo, or if you like Fulci, and you're interested in his other work besides like Zombie, Beyond City of the Living Dead, House by the Cemetery, New York Ripper, Black Cat, Conquest, anything but like that kind of supernatural stuff. If you want to see Fulci tackle something that's realistic and not New York Ripper's not supernatural, but something more realistic and less gratuitous, although it is. Check out Don't Torture a Duckling. It's a really smart, well-made movie, and I love the hell out of it. And Arrow did a great job with this release.
I think it's really one of the most beautifully photographed Italian genre films.
Actually, when they're talking about the North and South in a spaghetti Western, they're actually not talking about the North and South in the Civil War. They're talking about the North and South in Italy.
Gothic as a literary mode often explored Christian ideals of morality, which is the foundation of the film.
Vento sa, come disse Lang, dice perché lei ha fatto Blue Gardenia? Dice perché ogni tanto, anche se ho fatto vedere questo agli altri, ho bisogno di mangiare.
the next one here. This is awesome. I can't believe I'm holding one. But this is the DVD. This is a Canadian import of the Spookies. It's actually by Intercontinental Video, and it's kind of strange where you have to get this one. It actually is, there's in the description box on Screaming Toilet and YouTube below, before everybody blows up the question and says, where do I get it? Because I know everybody wants a new 2K scan of the Spookies on DVD. But there's a store in the description box on Facebook. I believe it's the only place selling it right now. It's a local release. It's not released in the United States or anything like that. I don't know even how on the up and up it is for the United States to get it. But regardless, the Spookies. Yeah, everybody knows the story of the Spookies. It's a 1986 really bizarre, goofy movie with the everything kitchen sink approach, all the monsters thrown in there, just complete ridiculousness. A bunch of people traveling to a party get lost. They wouldn't be hanging out together. They're a smorgasbord of weird people. They get lost in this weird haunted house that has rooms full of different monsters. It's two movies kind of stitched together, and you could tell where some end and some begin. Although they actually do a fairly decent job at kind of incorporating them together, even though the movie doesn't make any damn sense. It's about this weird kind of, I guess I'd call him a necromancer? I don't know what he is, but he's trying to bring his girlfriend back to life, or this woman he loves, kind of Dr. Five style, but he needs bodies and whatnot, and he's creating all these monsters, and the people are getting picked off by them. The music's very memorable. Anybody that hears it will immediately recognize it if you've seen the movie. It's one of those cheesy, completely batshit crazy movies that is awful, and you know it's bad, but there's so much cool stuff going in here. There's great effects. There's cool monsters. It's never boring. The house looks great. It's actually filmed well. So there's so much cool stuff going on with the Spookies, but it will forever be a what-if movie. What if the original Twisted Souls version was finished? What if the other version was made? You don't really know. It's a huge what if and confusing movie, but it's so vastly entertaining and weird, and everybody knows the Spookies, and I don't think anybody dislikes it. The monsters included are a witch, a giant grim reaper, ghoulies ripoffs, farting swamp things, zombies, a giant spider woman. Completely ridiculous, to be honest. The most famous actor in the movie that I recognize is he plays one of the bums who dresses in a garbage bag in Street Trash, but he pops up here and there in a bunch of stuff. But the DVD's pretty bare bones. It's a 2K scan. It looks and sounds better than I've ever seen it before, but then again, the old Vitco DVD was garbage. The VHS looked like a VHS, but regardless, it looks good. It's on DVD, and if you can track down a copy, I'd really recommend it. Long Live the Spookies, one of those kind of movies that always gets stuck in your head, has a lot of dumb, memorable lines. Happy birthday, Billy. And in the very beginning has some real dark stuff that almost doesn't feel in place. Like, it feels like a kid's movie at times, but then it had this horrible stuff. Little kid getting killed right in the first 10 minutes, and you think, geez, man, what the hell am I watching? But that's the Spookies.
That's weird. No name.
Happy birthday, Billy. But you're not free.
The next one here is by Vinegar Syndrome. This is one of my favorite movies. I was super excited to see it release. This is Psychos in Love. They are psychos in love. They hate grapes. They hate them purple and green. Anybody that's seen the movie will know that. There's a song in here. This is a really bizarre movie. Way before its time. Self-aware. Super weird. It stars Carmen from I can't say his last name. I'm not even going to try. But it's directed by, who is his... Belchard or Bulcher. I'm terrible with names. Just disregard what the hell I'm saying about names. But Carmen's a great guy. I met him at Cinema Wasteland. But this is one of the first movies I ever reviewed for my YouTube channel. It's got to be almost 10 years old. So if you want to see me 10 years ago, even dumber than I already was, even not knowing what I'm talking about even more so, then go watch the 10-year-old video. But regardless, Psychos in Love follows these two weird, zany characters that are serial killers. One kills men at random, one kills women at random. They meet and they fall in love and they start killing together and doing all these weird zany things. But it's not your typical Psychos in Love type movie. It's really self-aware. It's really bizarre. And by listening to the commentaries, I realized that you can tell as well their influences aren't necessarily all the horror movies and that kind of stuff. It's more of like almost like vaudeville kind of inspired comedians like Abbott Costello and like they said the Marx Brothers and stuff like before like early comedies, a lot of sight gags. It has really intelligent humor, like the kind of like Abbott Costello, who's on first base type stuff with like a bar scene where he's carrying on two conversations and it's getting confusing. That kind of stuff's really brilliant and smart, but then they have the really dumb stuff that's completely off the wall and ludicrous. And then on top of that, there's tons of that thing's running, sorry about that, but there's tons of gratuitous nudity and there's tons of blood, not necessarily horrifically amazing special effects or anything, but there's some gross out blood gags in here. But on top of all that, with all that going on, it has this sweet love story in the middle, and Joe and Kate just do such a wonderful job. The characters Joe and Kate are so likable, although they're serial killers. And a lot of the moments are lovey-dovey and cute. They have this music that plays through in a montage, and it'll crack anybody up. And the end of the movie, it just shows that so many of these killers are so full of crap, and they're so full of hypocrisy, and that's necessarily how it is. Like one, they basically kill people because they both hate grapes, and anybody that likes grapes is automatically bad, and one can't stand people talking about the weather, which is one of the most common things that people talk about when they have nothing to talk about, or they have nothing in common. But it's just a brilliant, weird, silly movie with lots of great fourth wall breaking jokes and repeated humor. I'm kind of a sucker for that. You guys notice that Edgar Wright and Nick Frost and the Simon Pegg, those guys will kind of do that kind of reoccurring humor, which is based on such an old humor. Like I think that's kind of some of the smartest humor, is bringing back old jokes in the movie and maybe slightly hinting at them. And there's a lot of that, and like I said, so much nudity. There's like laugh out loud moments in here that I don't think, sight gags and just silly stuff, but really wonderfully gross and cute at the same time. That explains to anybody. There's two commentaries on here. There's interviews with Carmen and the director, Gorman, sorry. There it is. It comes to me finally. And, they seem to, be fond of the movie and are happy that people enjoy it. There's a bunch of other stuff on here I didn't even get to. But Vinegar Syndrome did a great job. It's in its, I believe its original aspect ratio. It is in full screen, and I believe that's how it was filmed. But regardless, it's uncut. It's great. It's funny. Super memorable movie. Check it out.
I guess I thought that me being both a manicurist and a psychotic killer would turn a guy off.
next one here is another one by Vinegar Syndrome. I finally watched Punk Vacation. Yeah. This one, actually, I had never seen. This is one of those titles they released, and I'm like, man, I don't know what that is. Usually I'll know a title by its cover, or I'll be like, I recognize that cover, I heard about that. Punk Vacation, when they released that, they released it a while ago, I actually had not heard of it. I said, what's this? And they told me at the table when I bought it, they said, that's rednecks versus punks. And I was like, I gotta have that, you know. Just by that description, I was like, I gotta have rednecks versus punks. Yeah, Punk Vacation. What we have here is this kind of this desert, small town with kind of a not bad cops, but just they're not good at their job, except the sheriff's kind of a piece of garbage. And these punks ride through, one causes trouble, and a murder ends up happening. This kind of pits the local police and some of the local townspeople against this gang of punks that are staying out in kind of the wilderness. And the film kind of progresses and it builds, and it has these weird moments that it seems like it's building these punk characters as, you know, humans, and some of these like redneck characters, I'll use that loosely, that term rednecks, because I don't necessarily see the rednecks except that they like their guns. But they use this they start kind of like building deeper into the characters. But at first it starts off with such a violent act that by the end of the movie you expect a climax, and the climax is awful. There isn't really a climax, to be honest. The movie kind of spurs out or flares out, and it just burns out, and it doesn't really go anywhere. At the movie, it's building up to this big climax, and it turns into a comedy show. Like, in the rest of the movie might have had humor here and there, or unintentional humor, but it just kind of goes completely comedic. Like, they almost chickened out, like, well, I don't know, or it was shot first and the other stuff was shot by somebody else. I'm not sure. There's no real features to speak of, so I don't know what this movie's story is. But regardless, the end of the movie comes in and it turns into a silly comedy. And the way it's edited at the very end, there's characters that just almost disappear that you really don't see what happens. It feels like an unfinished movie, to be honest. There's moments that are really cool and survival moments, and if it would have had a good ending, it would have been almost like a hit. I would suggest watching The New Kids instead, but it's fairly well made until the ending, I would say. It's interesting just because I had never heard of it, and it's always fun to find these kind of forgotten movies. But I really can't strongly recommend Punk Vacation. It is like a curiosity, but it's not a great curiosity. It's interesting watching. It looks good. They did a good job with the release, and it's a so-so movie all around. A better ending would have really pushed this one over, but that's all I have to say about that one.
White man coming on an horse. What do we do now, Coach?
You can put that gun down.
Nice and easy like.
Anyway, somebody had to convince Coach that women are as good administrators as men.
The next one here is the Wynkoop tapes. Joel D. Wynkoop. You guys should know who Joel D. Wynkoop is. He's kind of a B-movie actor from Florida. He used to work with Tim Ritter. He's in stuff like Truth or Dare. He's in Dirty Cop, No Donut, a slew of other stuff. He's like a B-movie king in Florida, and he's a really nice guy, and I've always been a big fan of him. I always thought he brought a really manic energy to the movies. Very, very intense, but very funny at the same time, and could, you know, one of those guys that can be like, to like in a second, be mad to happy to crazy to funny. He's just a really intense guy. He sent me over this anthology him and his wife made, or they starred all of them. she's an actress as well, Catherine Wynkoop. They sent it over to check out, so I was like, oh, I'm excited to check this out. It's 4 stories and a wraparound in here. What I will say about this is I'm a fan of Joel and his wife. They're pretty solid actors and actresses. Well, actress and actor. I think they're pretty good. But besides that, I don't really have much to say about it. I like the wraparound story. Basically follows this kind of weirdo played by Joel talking to his wife Catherine at this printing place, and he's supposed to sell them stories, and he goes into his spiel about these 4 stories. He's completely annoying, he's ridiculous, but he's really funny and charming. And this one's actually probably my favorite of the bunch, although there's some really weak camera work where the camera goes in and out of focus here and there. I understand the sound issues and stuff are expected on a really low budget movie. These are very low budget, but the camera going in and out of focus, I don't know if somebody noticed or not, but that's kind of distracting at times. But there is some funny moments here and there. But the stories are as follows. There's one about a really bad husband down on his luck who does something awful to his wife. That one's okay, I guess. Like I said, Joel and his wife are always good. That's the best highlight of the movie. Some of the other actors in all of them are iffy. Some are okay, some are bad. No, not to point out anybody. But the second one follows the story of a wife who believes her husband's cheating on her, hires a private eye to check it out, and there's a twist in there. And the twist is so ridiculous at the very, very end. Some weird stuff happens, and you kind of have to chuckle. The next one is kind of like a Grindhouse throwback, where they're trying to do. This one's probably the weakest of the bunch. The twist is typical, but these a lot of times are. But it's just. It doesn't really, it goes as expected. And the final one is basically a family fighting this crazy satanic cult in the woods. This one has the most extras in here. And Joel gets to do the most in here as well. And it's fun watching him and his wife, kick butt and do some stuff. It seems that they do know how to fight. I know that Joel, I think, is actually a karate guy for sure. But the digital stuff in here is pretty rough. There's not many practical effects in here, and the camera work and the technical stuff really hurts the movie. But besides that, if you're a big Joel fan and you like his wife Catherine, I think that they're fun to watch, and I'm intrigued by what they do, and give hats off for making a movie and putting it together. Like I said, technical stuff's pretty rough, but their acting's fun, and they have a lot of energy. Some of the other actors and actresses are okay. They hold their weight. Others, are pretty bad. It seems that sometimes they're kind of like improvising a lot of the stuff, and it's just, they're not very good at it sometimes. I'm not talking about Joel and his wife, but other times, and it seems like maybe there's a kind of a mistake here or there, and they leave it in. But I can't hate on anybody that went out and made a movie. And like I said, I enjoyed watching it, but there is a lot of technical problems. But it is a super low budget movie. But if you like Joel, you should check it out. I think that most Joel D. Wynkoop fans will enjoy it. He has a way of making a lot of stuff more entertaining than it should be. So there's that as well. All the information will be in the description box if you want to check it out.
Dana and Constance Sodermeyer. Meet her at 9 a.m. at Target. I forgot my watch. Buy my stories. She looks good. Wouldn't mind getting some of that, is right. All right, here we go. Hi. I'm Barry Atwater. How are you? I should try it in like an English voice, like,
hello, my name is Barry Atwater. How are you? Hello. Hello, my name is Barry Atwater.
That sounds stupid. How about, my name is Barry Atwater. No, I'll just be myself.
Can I help you?
Hi, my name's Barry Atwater. We met at the meet and greet. You said you might be interested in buying some of my story ideas for books or perhaps movies.
Right, the writer? Come on in.
Hi! Oh, sorry. Oh! Nice looking fella. Barry Atwater, and like I said, we met at the meet and greet. It was last week. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, boy! So, is this your printing shop?
No, it's a hair salon. Of course it's a printing shop, genius. We print everything here. We print posters, banners, business cards, brochures, flags. or your one-stop shop for all your printing needs. Target Printing and Copying, your one-stop shop for all your printing needs. And now we're getting into music.
The next one here, I had heard about this one. This is Cherry 2000, because I believe Pure Cinema Podcast talked about it, and also the director of Miracle Mile, which I loved. I loved Miracle Mile. But Cherry 2000, this is a super bizarre movie, and it has one of the most bizarrely put together casts. It has Andrew, is it David or Davis? He's in Graveyard Shift, I can't remember. Melanie Griffin's also in it. Brian James makes an appearance. Ben Johnson, which was great to see. And Lawrence Fishburne, Marshall Bell, Tim Tomberson. Just a super weird cast. Robert Dazar, just super strange, like I said. Really weird movie again. This director has a tendency to take movies that shouldn't be action movies and stretches the plots out and makes them just these crazy action movies, which I kind of love. I love Miracle Mile. Cherry 2000 is okay. I enjoy a lot of it, but it's just super weird. It basically follows the story of this guy. It's in the future. Dating super complicated. Having sex is super complicated. It's more like a lawyer-client process here. And our lead here has this robot called Cherry 2000. It's a rare model. It basically fills in sex, fills in relationships, and something goes wrong with this Cherry 2000. And he hires this Melanie Griffin to take him into this zone to get one. It's a very dangerous zone. Tim Tomberson, it's kind of like cut off places where the world's isolated and certain people own certain things. It seems like post-apocalyptic, I will say. Tim Tomberson runs this weird, strange group of like golfer yuppies. I don't know how to explain them, but they dress in Hawaiian shirts and they act really relaxed, but they're horrible monsters at the same time. And he obviously wants to stop them and, kind of abduct people into his cult. And along the way, Ben Johnson seems to be friends with Melanie Griffin, and he's kind of this old-timer that hangs out in this mine and ends up helping him. What I really enjoyed about the movie is Ben Johnson is great in it. He's you guys know Ben Johnson. I talked about him last week. He's in The Wild Bunch, Town That Dreaded Sundown, Hunter, and so among other things. He's in a bunch of stuff. But Dillinger. But it's really good in this. He's older in this one. This was made in the late 80s. He died a few years later, and he has this weird sentimental speech in here that it's I don't want to say it because a lot of times when there's like, here's a sentimental old guy, listen to him give a monologue, it can be bad. It can be, or it's just too cold and distant. I would name the Nolan movies for that. I feel those are too cold and distant for sentimental old guys to be in them. But this has a warmth to it, and Ben Johnson gets to deliver this nice warmth in his speech, and I really enjoyed it. It was kind of touching. This is, again, one of these movies where it feels like a kid's movie, but awful stuff happens as well. Like, it has this weird sense of adventure and fantasy, but then, like, people will die you don't expect in horrible ways. And that does tend to happen in here. It's a fairly fun action movie. It has its moments, but it's really hard to get past that this guy is basically forcing these people to go in this wasteland and help him find a sex spot. So it's right off the bat, it's hard to get on the guy's side that he wants to go find the sex spot. They do try to make up for it to say it's so hard to actually have a relationship in this day and age, in this world where he's from. So there's that. But really weird, bizarre movie, and I love it because it's so weird and bizarre, but it also has its own weird problems at the same time due to having a hard time buying that someone would go into a dangerous, dangerous place for a sex robot, It's got a lot more to say about that than Ex Machina, I guess.
In the future, the world has survived. Romance has not.
Right, so we'll say a dinner, complete sexual encounter, optional episode in the morning, right?
I gotta run this past my own lawyer.
Pleasure is strictly business. But it will be possible to have the perfect mate. A Cherry 2000.
Looks great.
Thanks.
Thoughtful. Desirable. She'll never run out on him. Just short out.
I'm sorry, kid. Total internal meltdown. Now you got her basic memory right here. Vocal patterns, verbal, whatever. Basic voice. Don't look so glum. Your chassis out for the count, all right? You got the chip, you go in, you pick yourself out a new model, you slide it in the slot, you got yourself your girl back in a brand new frame.
Give me a call if you find a Cherry. Cherry 2000.
Look, my friend, you're gonna be a very old man, round in the middle and bone dry before you find one of those in these parts.
That's a chance I'll just have to take.
Then, the adventure begins.
Why don't you hire a tracker to get into Zone 7?
We got a
policy against trackers in these parts.
Nobody goes into Zone 7.
They got one of the original warehouses down there. Girls stacked in the shelves like pies.
I'm looking for someone to go into Zone 7.
I'm E. Johnson. You're not gonna find anybody better than me, mister. I'm not a machine. Do you know where they keep these babies? We call it the graveyard. It is the worst place in the zone. Well, maybe I can get in there and find this thing, but I need somebody riding shotgun in order to make it out in one piece.
I want you to chase those birds till they drop.
If you think it's tough to meet the right people now, wait till you go looking for a Cherry 2000.
The next one here. I know everybody's going to say, why are you reviewing that? And then they're going to say, I can't believe you hadn't seen that before. And it is embarrassing, I will admit. I'm going to review the first Magnificent Seven from this lovely box set. I had not seen the Magnificent Seven. Yeah, I know it's bad. I know that's bad, and I understand that. But, you know, the Magnificent Seven has a brilliant cast. Has Yul Brynner, Eli Wallach, Charles Bronson, Steve McQueen, James Colburn, Brian Dexter. It's got one of those lovely casts, Robert Vaughn from Chud 2. You guys will know that. But essentially, this was made in 1960, I believe, by the same guy who did The Great Escape. He would later use Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, and James Colburn in that, which I love that movie. But this is based off the old Japanese film, which came a couple years before, The Seventh Samurai, which I haven't seen either. I know, I'm a garbage person. I should have, not watched 10 horror movies for 10 years straight. But regardless, the Magnificent Seven. I've been listening to a lot of, I guess academic things about a lot of Western movies, and learning the Magnificent Seven was kind of at that cusp, right at the end, like the kind of traditional, let's go get 'em kind of good guy versus bad guy Western. But it's such an interesting movie. These 7 guys basically are hired by this village to protect them from these evil bandits, and they all have a reason for doing it, which is what I love. They all have a reason to put their lives on the line, whether it's money, whether it's to be a hero, whether it's in their nature to test themselves, whether it's to find love. There's so many things that these guys do it for, and they have a good chemistry in the film. Eli Wallach's a great bad guy. He plays the bad guy, and he has some very memorable lines in here that say a lot. They go far. He says, my first mistake was kindness, and he says that's just a great line in the movie. But it also has that really great, no matter what, you have a loyalty. Like the Wild Bunch has this same loyalty, which is crazy because the Wild Bunch is such a down, dirty movie compared to this, and it turns all these Western tropes on their head, which, because these people, like guys like Sam Peckinpah were obviously fans of film, and they knew what they were doing when they take these old Western tropes. They turn them on their head in this, and there's a sense of loyalty between the Magnificent Seven. No matter how much they may not seem to like each other, how much they fight, there's a sense that, you ride with somebody and you don't abandon them. You get along with them. They're part of your family now, or regardless of what. And there's a scene in here with Brad Dexter, Harry, where he comes back, and it's a great scene, and it reminded me of that. But Robert Vaughn gets to play kind of a juicy role in here. He's a gunfighter who lost his courage. He has a great speech in here about no enemies, no insults taken. Steve McQueen, does a pretty good job as well. Yul Brynner's got the perfect cowboy walk, and Charles Bronson plays one of his actually most sentimental roles, and a great role as well. The special features on here, there was a great documentary talking about with the people who are still alive. I think Bronson was still alive at the time, but he didn't partake in the interview. But the director or the writer, somebody on there, I believe the director's dead, but one of the people on the set was saying, man, this is going to be tough to get all these egos under one umbrella, even though a lot of these guys were kind of coming into their own, like James Colburn and Steve McQueen and Charles Bronson weren't the big stars that they later became. But he said, all right, one of the first shots they took, all the Magnificent Seven are just riding through. He says, first thing, Steve McQueen tries to dip his canteen down in a river to get attention. And then Charles Bronson's unbuttoning his shirt to show off his muscles. And he said Brad Dexter's just giving this long, speech, Shakespearean speech. He's like, oh, no, this is going to be tough. And they said there's a lot of, these small kind of childish games playing against each other to get the spotlight, But it was all when the push came to shove, you know, it was a professional thing. But it was really cool to hear that kind of stuff, and these people trying to take the spotlight to become these big stars that they eventually would become. And seeing a lot of these guys so young, although Charles Bronson never looked young. I think he was like in his 30s when this movie was made anyways. But, you know, seeing James Colburn look so young throwing the knife was really cool. And the movie, it's not one of these movies where it's like everything's hunky-dory at the end, although it is sort of, you know, people die and it's sad. But, you know, I really enjoyed the hell out of it. It was one of those movies that I've been meaning to watch for years and years, and getting to finally see it was really amazing. But that's The Magnificent Seven. Memorable score, amazing cast, some great dialogue, and just a truly memorable experience.
777, the Magnificent Seven. They were only 7, but they fought like 700 to bring the kind of justice that would last. 777, the Magnificent Seven. They made a brave stand, the Magnificent Seven. They fought for the future to wipe away their past. The Magnificent Seven.
Ride on.
Ride on? Somehow I don't think you solved my problem.
Solving your problems isn't in our line.
We deal in lead, friend. So do I. We're in the same business, huh?
Only as competitors.
Get up and face me! Do you hear? Get up!
Look what I found.
So that's where they were. You hid them.
Sure they hid them. But she won't tell me where. They're afraid. She's afraid of me, you, him, all of us. Farmers. Their families told them we'd rape them.
Seven. They were only 7, but they fought like 700 to bring the kind of justice that would last. They made a brave stand, the Magnificent Seven. They fought for the future to wipe away their past. 777, the Magnificent Seven. The Magnificent Seven.
The next one here is one of my all-time favorites. I used to watch it all the time. This is Walter Hill. This is Extreme Prejudice. This is the Japanese import Blu-ray. Yeah, Extreme Prejudice. This has probably always been my favorite Walter Hill movie. I really always like Southern Comfort, and this, I always held a fondness to this. Basically, this movie has it's a modern Western, really, but it's got a great cast. It's got Nick Nolte, Powers Booth, Clancy Brown, Michael Ironside, William Forsythe, Tom Lister, Maria Aldonzo, I can't say her, Conchita, she's in The Running Man, which is one of my favorites as well. But regardless, this is almost, the end of this movie turns into a remake of The Wild Bunch. You can tell Walter Hill is inspired by the old Westerns and knows film, inspired by Peckinpah. I think he wrote the script to The Getaway, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, he has that inspiration. This is actually written by John Milius, and John Milius is one of those guys that knows film. He knows Westerns. He knows this kind of, these tropes and stuff, and he turns them on their head as well. But the Extreme Prejudice follows these two old friends, Nick Nolte, who's now a Texas Ranger, and Powers Booth, who's across the border selling drugs. And they have this weird relationship. Nick Nolte wants to follow the law, comes first before anything, and he wants Powers Booth to stop, selling it and come back and be arrested, yada yada yada. In between them is Nick Nolte and Powers Booth, Nick Nolte's girlfriend and Powers Booth's former girlfriend. And she has this strange love triangle where she loves them both, and that's probably I don't want to say weakest, but it might be one of the most strangest plot points and doesn't work completely. In the middle of that, you have Michael Ironside, who is this military guy who brings in his group of, badasses to take out Cash Bailey, who's Powers Booth. But they're doing it secretive. They're already listed dead on file. And that includes a bunch of people, recognizable faces in that group. Clancy Brown's in that. Like I said, Ironside, William Forsythe, and the Lamar Luttrell from Revenge of the Nerds actually plays in that as well. And a couple familiar faces. The guy from Biloxi Blues is in here, the bully Wachowski. He's in it. Matt Mulhorn, I believe his name is. And Dan Toulis, I believe, is the other one. And he's recognizable. I think he popped up with Married with Children a couple times. But it's got a lot of memorable faces. It's a great movie. Lots of good action. Lots of good drama. Rip Thorne's in this, but I can't believe I forgot Rip Thorne. He plays Nick Nolte's partner. The action shot like a peck and paw style when it happens, slow motion, big squibs, brutal. And this movie has some of the most memorable lines that anybody could ever ask for. Cash Bailey, "Geez, Jack, it's almost after 4." And Rip Thorne's line, "Hell, Jack, the only thing worse than a politician's a child molester," or something like that. Just these lines get stuck in your head. Clancy Brown in this movie is so memorable. He's got this great speech about a Ford truck. That's why I like Fords. So be on the lookout for that. I love the camaraderie. I mixed up my word. I love the friendship. Let's go with the easier word for me. The friendship between the soldiers and the honor. And it shows how smart John Milius is in the movie when he has William Forsythe say this line that says, "Man, I think we're heroes, you know? It's just the world's so... Heroes need a reason. They need a cause." And then Magnificent Seven, I go back to thinking that they did have this. They needed a cause as well. And he says, it's just things are so screwed up now that nobody knows what's going on. And that can portray today. And it's a great line that he understands that, and he plays into the old peck and paw tropes there, and he plays into like the old Western tropes at the same time. But the end of this movie is balls out, action, double crossing, amazing stuff. Has that, that it feels so much like The Wild Bunch at the end. I would say that it's basically a remake at the very end with a great cast and just insane stuff going on. Great score as well. No complaints. Just one of the best, most amazing Walter Hill modern westerns. 87, I guess that's not modern anymore, 30 years old. But a very memorable, great movie that I think most people will enjoy if they check it out. Walter Hill, probably one of his top 3. I know people will be like, The Warriors, 48 Hours. It's like, I like Extreme Prejudice and Southern Comfort. But Extreme Prejudice, amazing movie. You guys got to see it.
Absolutely imperative that this job look like a civilian operation.
Get down! Kiss the floor!
I expect a little cooperation.
Ralston, I expect you to stay out of my way.
Put the damn gun down, soldier!
Somewhere in America, a secret war is being waged.
This is a case of national security.
Go. A war of deception.
It's a daylight hit. I come over to talk about the bomb that went off yesterday. I got 2 people dead.
Fought by a phantom army.
Sergeant Buck Atwater killed Laos in 74. How can they be officially dead and 2 of them locked up in there?
It's classified.
Now, he's the only one that stands in their way.
I got a feeling the next time we run into each other, we're gonna have a killing.
Termination with extreme prejudice. Anyone could be the enemy.
Tell the FBI to kiss my...
Want to tell me about it?
I can't talk about it. I gotta do something about it.
Nothing is what it seems.
What the hell's the military robbing banks in Texas for?
And unless he can stop them,
it's poison.
Everything he stands for is at stake.
Very unusual.
What is?
Ordering the termination of an American civilian peace officer, clearly loyal to the country and in the process of bringing a known criminal to justice.
What we're gonna do as we're told. Right, Sergeant?
Kill him. Kill him like an animal. The only thing that ever scared the hell out of me, Cash, was myself.
We are space age high tech, and we get caught by some Stone Age cowboy.
Nick Nolte. Extreme Prejudice.
All right, guys, let's get into the contest. This is for the old one, Django Kill. If You Live, Shoot, I believe it's called. Let's see what we got here. Who's going to win it? Tyler. That's all he left was Tyler. So if you watch the videos, Tyler, make sure you give me your information. Make sure you can prove that you're the one who left the comment. But that's what you want, Django Kill, If You Live, Shoot. For the new contest, all you got to do is do the 3 things, you know, like the Screaming Toilet Facebook page, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and leave a comment under the Screaming Toilet page. Not the YouTube, not the Facebook, the actual page. And you get a chance to win Fender Bender on DVD from Screen Factory. This is a one I picked up at Family Video. I picked up the Blu-ray, I don't need it. And my old DVD of Extreme Prejudice from Artisan. Now, be warned, this isn't full screen. It doesn't look great, but if you want to check out the movie before you import the Blu-ray or import the UK DVD, which looks much better, you could get a chance to win this one. But that's that. My shout-out this time, I'll get into the shout-out. This is for Cinema Wasteland. It's a movie convention. I go to it twice a year. It's the best convention. You know, I've only been to a couple, but Wasteland's just something that I went to and I had to go back. They have it's about the fans. They have cool guests, some obscure guests, but it's just a great big old fun party. I don't drink, so you know, and I still have a blast. There's lots of good stuff there. You know, Synapse is there, Trauma's there, Severance there. Who is it? Vinegar Syndrome's there. Massacre Video's there. They all got tables. Diabolic DVD's going to be there this time. Tons and tons of tables around. So if you ever get a chance, it's in Strongsville, Ohio, right outside Cleveland. It's this weekend. You'll be watching this. It's going Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So go check it out. If you see me, say hi. I love being there. It's just the best convention. Ken Kish pushed this on, and I want to thank him again. All the information will be below to check out Cinema Wasteland. If you can't make it in October, head out in April. That's all the videos. You'll see old videos and me filming there. Just love the hell out of Cinema Wasteland. It's great stuff. But I guess I'll get into the questions. What do I got here? Jonathan Wilhelm. Which soundtrack do you like better, Demons 1 or 2? You know, I've seen Demons 1 a lot more. I remember the soundtrack in Demons 1 a lot more than Demons 2. I'm going to have to go with 1. I mean, I remember Billy Idol's being in there, and there's a bunch of stuff. And that song when he plays when he's riding the motorcycle in the theater, like, whoosh, whoosh, gotta go Demons 1. Jason Kruger, how do you decide what you watch from your collection? Do you keep duplicate? All right, I'll go to the first question first. A lot of stuff I get to review shows up on my doorstep, and I have to go through that. I watch a lot of that, and then I watch whatever the hell I feel like watching. You know, sometimes I'll get in like a place where I'm watching a bunch of westerns or a bunch of Walter Hill movies or a bunch of Tarantino movies, or just, you know, I'll be like, well, now I'm just gonna watch, you know, zombie movies or vampire, whatever. You know, I go through my streaks. So I watch. It's a mixture of stuff that shows up to review, which I enjoy, and stuff that I want to watch. So I try to mix it up. And his other question is, do you keep duplicates of movies so you have a better version? You know, I don't tend to keep the DVDs. That's why I give them away in contest. Or if I get a movie on Blu-ray and the DVD and it has all the same features and all the same commentaries and exactly the same on cut, if everything's ported over, I get rid of it. If it's not, I try to hold on to it. Nick Mua, do you get sent all kinds of movies because you're a professional movie critic, or do you have to buy them all yourself? I wouldn't say I'm professional. I'm definitely the most amateur movie critic around. I mean, I've been doing it a long time, but it doesn't mean I'm professional. I write for Screaming Toilet, and I do the YouTube stuff, but I wouldn't say I'm professional. I would say I'm amateur. I mean, my full-time job is not movie critique. I wish it was, but I'm not good enough at it, and I don't think it would pay my bills. I spend a lot of money. But, you know, I guess, what was exactly the question? Did you get sent movies? Well, I buy a lot myself. I get sent a lot, but I buy a lot. So the more I get sent, the more I buy. You know, I like to support, and sometimes I even feel bad about getting stuff to review because I'm like, man, I want to support, so I'll buy other stuff from them. I don't know. It's kind of a weird slippery slope. Like, you want to do the review, and you hope that you're getting them sales if you like the movie. I mean, sometimes you get bad stuff, and you got to be honest. But sometimes, you know, you just feel like, man, I hope that I'm getting them sales because this movie is worth the time to watch and worth buying. And I would have bought it if it wasn't sent. And, you know, and so I'll go buy some stuff, you know, from them that not. It's kind of strange, you know. Jeremiah Ball, my question would be, what do you think about the new Halloween movie coming out next year with Jamie Lee Curtis returning, and are you excited for it? I don't know. I'm going to be honest here. You know, I enjoyed the Friday the 13th movies, Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but I think Halloween has the worst series record. 1 and 2 I remember liking. It's been so long since I watched any Halloween movies. 3 as well. 4 and 5 I don't remember very well. I remember 6, 7. I just 8. I'm like, these are bad. And I don't even hate the Rob Zombie movies, but it's just the Halloween's got so many bad eggs in it that I don't know. I don't really get excited like that. It's really hard to make something after so many years be a direct sequel. I don't know enough about it to be excited about it, except that Jamie Lee's in it. It's just, I'll probably watch it, but I don't know how I feel about it. Christopher Daliere, favorite zombie movie, Day of the Dead. I also like Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead, Zombie, Dead Alive, Let's See the Corpses Lie. Zombies are my favorite, so, but Day of the Dead. Mr. Tony, that's also my favorite movie, is Day of the Dead, so... Mr. Tony of the Dead, my question for you is almost like my last question last week, but what movie would you like to see Scream Factory release that they hadn't already? I'm trying to think, and usually they release MGM or Universal, so Killer Clowns from Outer Space would be a nice one for them to do, or Blood Games, I believe is MGM. I have not seen that movie, but it's one that I believe is an MGM title that I wanted to see. I know Kino will do MGM as well, but, Blood Games, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I'm interested in stuff that I haven't seen, to be honest, to get released, but Killer Clowns is a great movie. I'd like to see them do the special treatment on it, special edition, and I'm sure they probably will eventually. Bill Wolford, what are a few of your guilty pleasure movies? We all have them. Jeez. You mean I know it's crap, but I love it? In the horror genre? Or ones that I would be embarrassed at telling people I like? Back when 10 Things I'm not really embarrassed by anything anymore. But back when I remember when 10 Things I Hate About You came out, I thought that was a fine movie. I was like, this is all right, And I remember I was pretty young, so it was one of those ones yeah. But, hell, I remember liking Scary Movie. And I'm sure a lot of people were like, that's garbage, but I laughed. Very Scary Movie 1 and 2 a lot when they came out. Guilty pleasure of horror movies that I know aren't very good. Neon Maniacs is one of my favorites. I know it has its problems, but I enjoy the hell out of it. Stuff like that, probably. I just watch them over and over again, and people are like, these are garbage. Why are you watching these over? I'm like, I don't know. I like it. It has a charm to it. Probably stuff like that. Joe B., have you seen Mother? Thoughts? No, I have not seen Mother. And what's your thoughts on studios using horror marketing and art films that are not strictly horror genre fare? Well, there's lots of false advertisement going on, but the genre lines get blurred a lot. Not necessarily, it's just is it horror? Is it not? I don't know. And then if it wins a bunch of awards, it's not a horror movie. It's a psychological thriller with horror themes. It's whatever. I don't know. Did it horrify you? Was it supernatural? There's so many different ways to describe what a horror movie is. But I do feel that a lot of art films do have these horrific moments in there, and sometimes they go further than a horror movie. They push the boundaries. They're more progressive nowadays than horror movies. Horror movies used to be the progressive bounds for movies. They would push things. And a lot of times now it's art films. But sometimes the art films are awful. Sometimes they're great. You never know, just like a horror movie. Yeah, so I don't know. If it gets people to see it, I'm happy, Anything to make people see movies they typically wouldn't is great. Although there will be disappointed people, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. I guess I'll hop into the update. Here's what we got here. Stripes. Haven't seen it in years. This is actually my favorite Bill Murray movie. This and Scrooge, believe it or not. But this is the extended cut. I never saw the extended cut. Always loved Stripes. Bill Murray, John Candy, Harold Ramis, Warren Oates, PJ Souls, Judge Reinhold. Great cast, great movie, really funny. I was watching some clips on it online, and at the moment, there's a scene where he says, name's Francis Sawyer. Everybody calls me Killer. I just was watching that scene online, and just so funny. Such good stuff. There's 10 jokes. And it's not the kind of jokes that makes you laugh out loud. It's just stuff that you remember and you think about and laugh later. Real life situations sometimes. Although it gets a little ridiculous in the second half if I remember. But we got Devil's Candy. Not seen this. Heard it was good. Heard only good things. The Professionals. This looks cool. Kind of looks like a Magnificent Seven style movie. This one's got Lee Marvin, Burt Lancaster, Woody Strode, I believe's in it, and there's somebody else in that's popular. Let me see. Jack Palance, I guess, is the bad guy, which is awesome. We got Vera Cruz, Gary Cooper, Burt Lancaster, also Ernest Borgnine and Charles Bronson, I believe, are bad guys in it. That interests me. Point Blank with Lee Marvin. Not seen it. I know, I'm filling in blank spot, guys. 10th Victim by Blue Underground. By Blu-ray, not seen that one. And Killer Nun. which is another one I had not seen by Blue Underground. That's the video. I know it's been long. I probably stumbled over a lot of stuff. I had a lot of stuff to get out. But if there's any comments, concerns, anything that you didn't like or anything you want to see more of, please feel free to leave a comment, like I said, or ask a question on the video. Enter the competition, whatever. Just not competition, but contest. And always, thank you very much for watching. And let me know what you guys think about doing this as an audio as well. Audio to go with the video. So if you guys want to listen to it at work or not listen to it at all, I don't care. But regardless, take care. Have a good one.